Okay, fine. Right. So why are we here is to cover one specific, right, set of concepts from which chapter? Chapter number 2. That's competency 2. And why I wanted to take this part specifically, so actually you can see the title here, it says effects of determinants on demand and supply, right? So to say that in detail, we are going to learn about changes in quantity demanded, changes in demand, changes in quantity supplied, and changes in supply. Those are the 4 concepts that we are going to learn about today. And these are extremely simple concepts, but very important. Let's start with that, right? Let me tell you how important it is. From there onwards, we'll move on. You see here, in 2019, MCQ number 6, number 8, number 9, sorry, number 8, and number 10. There are 3 MCQs related to this question in 2019. And there are 2 part 2 essay questions also, 2 marks and a 4-mark question. So you see how important this is. The understanding of this part could get you about 6 marks out of 100 in your A-level exams. That's how important this part is. 2018, you see again 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, right? 4 questions with a basic knowledge of what we are going to learn today, with a proper understanding of it. You can do these questions. If not, you can't. So that's why I wanted to do this part specifically, because it's so important, yet it's so simple. But students get to, not understand it properly whenever, they study during their class time. That's why I wanted to take a specific separate time and cover this part. So let's start. So this is what we are going to do. First of all, I'm going to take you through some background concepts first, and because then only you will be able to understand these 4 concepts clearly, right? So I'm going to go a little bit back, teach you some background things, and then we move on to these 4 concepts that you see here, right? And then once we are done, we'll be doing some questions and we discuss those questions as well. Okay, so we'll start now. First of all, you guys tell me, what is demand? Simply, what is demand? Demand, if you want to say it simply, it's the willingness, right? It's the want, along with what? We need the want, we need the purchasing power, and also we need the willingness. All of them put together, now we have demand. That means the willingness of a customer to buy a product along with the purchasing power. That means the customer is wanting the product and he's also able to buy that product. Now that is what simply demand means. Or in a very simple manner, you can say it's like asking for something. That's what demand is. Supply is giving something. The producer supplies things and the consumer demands things. So we know those things, right? We know those stuff. The definitions, that's a simple thing you don't have to worry about. But this is where we start our lesson for the day. So determinants of demand. What is meant by that? Determinants of demand simply means what decides demand, right? What factors affect the amount someone is asking of a product, right? What factors play a role in deciding how much people are asking for a product in the market? Those are called determinants of demand, the factors that decide how much demand a product has. And you see here, the first one, price of the particular product. When you are going to buy something, right? Let's say you are going to buy something for a festival, you are going to No Limit or Fashion Bug somewhere, and you look at a shirt, the first thing you will look at is the price of the product, the price tag, right? That will decide whether you buy the product or not. So demand is basically mainly decided by the price of the product. But price is not the only thing that decides the demand, right? There are other factors that affect demand, like your income, how much money you have. That will decide whether you will be able to buy the product or not, whether you can afford the product or not. Your taste, whether you prefer that shirt, whether you like that shirt, whether it suits you. So consumers' taste is something that will decide demand of a product. Future expectation, let's say next week, this particular shirt is going to be on sale at a reduced discounted price. Will you buy it now? No. You won't demand the product now because you will wait until next week so that you can go and buy it for a low price next week. So today, demand will drop. So demand is being affected by future expectations also, right? Sometimes you might be like, you want to buy a product now, right? But next week they are putting an offer, you'll wait. On the other hand, sometimes you were thinking of buying a product next week, but today, right? Today you get a news that next week the prices are going to go up. So today you will rush and buy the product. So future expectation again will decide how much consumers demand of a product. And then there are other factors also, like political reasons, like personal reasons, right? Sometimes you buy a product because your father bought it, your brother bought it, something sentimental, right? So there are other factors also, because these are not the only reasons why people buy products. And there can be thousands of reasons, right? But we talk about only specific ones, right? Most important ones. So you see here, price of related products. I didn't talk about it, so we'll talk about it now. Price of related product. Now that's another factor or determinant of demand. That means when you are going to buy a shirt, you won't be only looking at the prices of shirts. You will look at price of t-shirts. You will look at price of maybe trousers, right? Now, a t-shirt, do you wear a shirt and a t-shirt together, or are they substitutes? A t-shirt and a shirt, do they go together, or you wear them, separately? Some movie stars wear them both together. Yes, I have seen that. But generally speaking, right, shirts and t-shirts are substitutes, right? But they are related goods. If you think about a shirt, obviously, when you are thinking of buying a shirt, you will also check on the prices of t-shirts also, right? If a shirt is like very cheap, available on offer, you won't go and buy a t-shirt for an extremely expensive price. You will buy the shirt and come. Right. On the other hand, there are shirts, but t-shirts are available for a very cheap price. Sometimes you will buy the t-shirt and come. So the demand for shirt is also affected by the price of t-shirts. At the same time, you take shirts and trousers, right? Shirts and maybe formal trousers. Now they are complements. They go together. Prices of trousers can affect the demand of shirts because you wear them both together. So they are the related goods. Think about maybe coffee and tea. They are substitutes. The price of coffee will have an effect on demand of tea. Think about sugar and coffee. They are complements. They go together. The price of coffee will have an effect on demand of sugar. So those are price of related products. We'll talk about them later in detail. For now, I just wanted to quickly cover them. Right. So these first 6 points are determinant of demand. And then you see here, there's a 7th point, right? The first 6 points you see We call them, right? We call them determinants of individual demand, because it will decide every single person's demand. The first 6 determinants, they will decide every single person's demand. When you are buying a product, all of these are playing a part in your decision. How much you buy, that is decided by all of these factors. But when you add the 7th one, number of buyers in the market, that means simply the population, right? Now that will also have an effect on how much the product is bought. But with that, if you have all 6 plus the 7th number of buyers in the market, now we call them determinants of market demand. Determinants of market demand. Okay, so determinants of demand, have them in your head because you need them later on. Okay, now I have given you a demand schedule and also a demand curve, right? A demand schedule and a demand curve I have given them. Now, a demand schedule, what it simply does is, it will simply show you at different prices, right? At different prices, what will be the demand in the market for the product. So you see, for 20 rupees, 400 is the demand. When the price is 40, consumers are ready to buy 300 units. When the price is 80, consumers are ready to buy 100 units. Demand table simply tells you that at different prices, consumers are ready to buy how many quantities of the product. That's all. Simple as that. If you now present the same thing that is said in the schedule in a graphical method, in a graph, now that is called a demand curve. That is this, a demand curve, right? A demand curve. And a demand curve does the same thing what the table is doing here, right? Demand curve does the same thing, but now it's in a graph, not in a table. So you see here, it's simply telling you when the price is 80, you know the demand is 100. When the price is 40, the demand is 300. So that's all. That's what the curve is doing. That's what the table is also doing. Now, in this case, we'll be talking a lot about demand curve today, right? Today, schedules, that's okay. We can keep them aside. But today, we'll be talking a lot about these demand curves, right? So are you all familiar and okay with this demand curve, drawing it and stuff? It's a basic thing. It's nothing complicated also. Right. But you see, the definition of demand curve, I have simply given it. During a certain period of time, when other factors remain constant, that part you need to highlight. So when you draw a demand curve, they are saying the other factors are constant, right? What are the other factors here? Generally speaking, anything except price, anything other than price that decides demand, we call them other factors or non-price factors, right? We call them other factors or non-price factors, right? So during a certain period of time, while everything else is assumed to be constant, right? Everything else is assumed to be constant. The graph that shows, right? The graph that shows the expected quantity demanded by consumers at alternative prices. That means at different prices. So if you have a look at this graph, what is it telling you? It's simply telling you, right? At 80 rupees, 100 units are demanded. At 60 rupees, 200 units are demanded. But when you draw this demand curve, all the other factors that decide demand, we have to assume they are constant. What is the only thing that is changing when you draw a demand curve? What is the only thing that is changing when you are drawing a demand curve? Price of the particular product. Exactly. Very good. Price of the particular product. That's the only thing that changes when you draw a demand curve. And you might also say, okay, quantity demanded is also changing, but that's what we are talking about, how demand changes. I just wanted to prove only price of the product is changing, every other determinants of demand are constant. Keep that in your head. You'll need it because that's something that is questioned a lot in your A levels. Moving on. Now we have supply. So whatever you learned there, it's the same thing, but this time it's going to be from the producer's side, right? Supply is the quantity that the producers are being enabled to sell in the market at various prices. That's what supply simply is. Now, what a producer, how much a producer is ready to and willing to sell is decided by these determinants, right? You see here, price of the concerned good. Obviously, the producer will first look at what is the price I'm getting from this product. If it goes up, he will sell more. If it comes down, he will reduce producing that product because it's not profitable anymore. Obviously, he will look at cost of production. How much cost I have to incur to produce this product, right? Because based on that only, he can decide his profit, right? If the price is 100 and the cost is like 90 rupees, now there's only 10 rupee profit. If the cost goes up to 95, now the profit is coming down to 5 rupees. That's a problem, right? So cost of production will decide the supply of a product. Technology. If the technology improves, now with the same set of resources, we can produce more. With the same set of cost, you might be able to produce more. So with technology, again, supply will be decided. Government policies, government imposing taxes, right? Government coming up with some form of tax and putting that on the producer's head. That will affect supply. Government coming up and providing some subsidies to the producers. That will affect supply. And also future expectation as well, right? In the future, if a product's price is gonna go up, today, what will happen to supply? What do you guys think? Will the producers sell more today, or will the producers decrease their supply today? They will decrease. Why? If they keep it today and wait till next week, when the price goes up, they can sell it for a higher price, right? So what will happen? This future expectation will affect supply. And then there are other factors also, right? Other factors might be, again, political reasons, personal reasons. If the producer is like, no, I will only produce 99 units per day, right? Because that's my lucky number. Now you can't control it. No matter what the price is, no matter what the cost of production is, he is like, 99 is my lucky number. I will only produce 99 per day. So that is also a deciding factor in that case, but that's why we include them under other factors. So all of these factors, right, will decide every single producer's supply, how much every single producer is ready to supply in the market. The last one, number of sellers, now that will decide the market supply, right? So all of those above factors, along with the number of sellers in the market, now you have the market supply determinants. That's fine. And then we'll talk about price of related goods. For the producer also, there are substitute options. If Atlas is making water bottles with the same set of plastic, they can make lunch boxes also, right? When water bottle prices go up, right? Let's say they are now making lunch boxes, water bottle prices are going up. So they will be like, why am I producing lunch boxes when water bottles are going up in price and more profitable, right? They will be like, oh, okay, we'll reduce lunch boxes and produce more water bottles. So producers also have substitutable options in production, right? So that is one of the related products that will affect supply of a particular good. Okay. And there are another type of related goods. We don't talk about them much, but they are there. We call them byproducts, right? We call them byproducts. Byproducts simply means when you make a product, while making them or using the same set of resources, you get something else also, right? You're making shirts with the leftover material. Maybe you can make handkerchiefs, right? So handkerchief is a byproduct of shirts. So from a producer's point of view, if there's a huge demand for handkerchiefs, right? If the prices of handkerchiefs are going up, Now the producer will be ready to produce more shirts also, because when they make more shirts, they can make more handkerchiefs. So those are byproducts. They also, the prices of those also can have an effect on supply. And I have given the supply schedule and the supply curve. These are the same things. The only difference is above we call them demand curve and demand schedule, because that table showed you at different prices what the consumers are asking. This table is showing you at 20 rupees how much the producer is willing to sell. At 60 rupees, how much the producer is willing to sell. So it's the same thing. The concepts, everything are the same. The only difference is what we learned in the previous slide was from the consumer side, and it showed what the consumers are asking at different prices. This one is showing what the producers are willing and able to sell at different prices, right? So with that, we can get on to these topics: changes in quantity demanded and changes in demand. And then after finishing it, we'll move on to changes in quantity supplied and changes in supply. Okay, about the determinants, we'll talk about them more here also, right? Cool. Now, my first question is, have you already in some way heard or learned about these concepts, or is it the first time you are having a look at them? Okay, so pretty much everyone is saying they have learned it before, but you have some doubts. We'll clear everything off. Don't worry. So first, we'll start with these two: changes in quantity demanded and changes in demand. Right. Now you see here, we learned about the definitions, right? We learned about the, determinants of demand. So here they are, right? Determinants of demand. Now, whenever one of these determinants change, demand is going to change, right? Whenever the price changes, demand will change. Whenever consumer income changes, demand will change. Whenever consumer taste changes, demand will obviously change, right? But these determinants, how they affect demand, we classify them as those changes in quantity demanded and changes in demand. This is what you have to learn here. Whenever the price of the product, right? Whenever the price of the product changes, right? Whenever, listen to this carefully, whenever the price of the product, that is the thing that is changing now. Price of the product is changing. While everything else, while every other determinant is constant, while every other determinant is constant. Let's say all of these are not changing, they're just constant, fixed. The only thing that is changing is the price of the product is changing. Now, this will affect quantity demanded of the product, right? Obviously, how much people are now asking of the product, how much people are demanding of the product will get affected because the price has changed. Let's say the price has increased, right? The price has increased. Everything else is constant. Everything else, every other determinant is constant, right? Now, that's what's called a change in quantity demanded, right? Price of the product is the only thing that is changing. Every other determinant of demand is fixed. Because this price changed, the amount the people are asking of the product is going to change. And that change is called changes in quantity demanded. That's the thing you need to know here. That's called changes in quantity demanded. So you can see that when other factors determining demand remain constant. What are the other factors? I told you anything except price, because here we are only going to talk about changes in the amount of quantity demanded or changes in the amount demanded in response to changes of what? To changes of price of the particular good, right? Other factors are remaining constant, but the amount people are asking is changing. Why? Because price of the particular product has changed. Now that is called changes in quantity demanded. Changes in quantity demanded. Is that part clear? This will be even clearer once we learn about changes in demand. Then you will have a proper understanding of what these two are, right? So changes in quantity demanded is simply whenever price changes, as a result of that, quantity demanded is changing. Now that's called changes in quantity demanded, right? Cool. So simply what's happening in changes in quantity demanded is price of the product. If you take and you have quantity demanded of the product, simply price of the product, when it increases or when it decreases, obviously that's going to change, right? That's going to change how much is demanded. This is called changes in quantity demanded, while every other factor is constant, right? On the other hand, changes in demand simply means, you can have a look here, right? On the other hand, changes in demand, you see, when the price of the concerned good remains constant. So what's happening now? The price of the product is not changing, right? Price of the product is not changing. Changes in the amount demanded in response to the changes in other factors determining demand. Now this time around, the amount people ask of the product, right? Amount demanded is going to change, but this time it's not because of a price change, because price is constant. It's not changing, right? It's not changing, but something else causes it. It can be consumer's income. Maybe your salary has increased. Maybe you saw an ad and suddenly you started liking the product, right? Before you didn't like the product. The product was, let's say, 50 rupees. You didn't like the product, you didn't buy. But now suddenly you saw an ad and you started liking the product, even at the same 50 rupee price. Now you'll go and buy the product. So this kind of a change in demand, right? This kind of a change is what we call changes in demand. What's happening here? Price is not changing, right? But the amount people are asking of the product is changing as a result of a change in the other factors of demand, right? Other factors of demand. That means price of the product that we saw above, right? If we go here, this time around, price of the product is constant. Something else, some other determinant is going to change. And obviously, as everything else is, price is not the only thing that decides demand. We have studied all of these here are determinants of demand. So when price is constant, when one of these changes, that will also change the amount people are demanding of the product. Now that change is called changes in demand, right? Changes in demand. So here you can have a look. I have given everything in detail. What could cause a change in quantity demanded? It's simple. An increase or decrease, right? Increase or decrease in price of a particular good, can result in a change in quantity demanded of a good, right? An increase in the price or a decrease in the price will lead to a change in quantity demanded, while all the other factors determining demand, such as everything else, every other determinant, right, remain constant. Every other determinant remain constant. Now that's what changes in quantity demanded simply means. What's going to happen? The price is going to go up or come down while everything else is constant, right? Just because the price has gone up or come down, now the amount people demand of the product is going to change. That is called changes in quantity demanded. On the other hand, while the price is constant, right? While the price is constant, this time also the amount people demand of the product is going to change, but this time the cause is what? An increase and a decrease in these. It can be a change in the substitute products price or complementary products price or your income, your taste, future expectation, something. If they cause a change in the demand, right? If they cause a change in the amount people are asking of the product, now that is called change in demand. So this is the difference here, right? When price changes, as a result of that quantity demanded changes, right? The amount people are demanding of a product, if it changes because of a change in the price, while everything else, consumers' income is constant, taste is constant, future expectation is constant, right? Now this is called what? What do we call it? What do we call this? Change in quantity demanded. Change in quantity demanded. Perfect. On the other hand, let's go to the other side. Here, let's say the price of the product is constant now, right? But for example, consumers' income is increasing, and that is leading to an increase in the amount people are demanding of the product. Now, this would be called what? Change in demand. Change in demand. So the basic things that you should have in your head: price changes while everything else is constant. Just because of the price change, if the amount people are asking is changing, that's called changes in quantity demanded. Let's say price is constant, but the amount people are asking is changing due to some other factors change. That's called change in demand. That's it. Clear on this for now? Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move on to changes in quantity demand, right? Changes in quantity demanded, right? Here again, we are going to say the same thing, but now we are going to show how a change in quantity demanded can be presented graphically. Can be presented graphically. I'll give you a minute, just go through this, then I'll explain the whole thing. Right. So first of all, just as a summary, it's given changes in quantity demanded are simply caused by what? An increase or decrease in price of the particular product while other factors are constant. That we already know, right? Now, these changes in quantity demanded, right? These changes in quantity demanded are classified into two types, right? We classify them in two different types. And this is not rocket science or something. It's very basic set of concepts that you have to learn here. And it will be quite easy also, right? Now, classifications of these changes in quantity demanded. One is extension in demand. The other one, contraction in demand. Extension in demand, contraction in demand. First, we'll look at extension in demand. And what it simply means is, now, let's say price of the product is coming down. Price of the product is coming down. As a result of that, if quantity demanded What will happen normally when price comes down? What will happen to quantity demanded for a normal good? For a normal product, whenever price drops, the demand goes up, right? The demand goes up. That's how it works normally, right? Now, this is called extension in demand. That's all. Price comes down, quantity demanded goes up while other factors are constant. That's all. That's what extension in demand is. There's nothing else to know about this. That's all. Right? So generally we know that changes in quantity demanded simply means you have price and quantity demanded, right? So whenever price goes up, quantity demanded comes down, that we know, or whenever price comes down, quantity demanded will go up. Now that is what changes in quantity demanded is, right? Whenever price changes, quantity demanded changes, because a change can be of two types, increase and decrease, right? That is how we are classifying this extension and contraction. Whenever price drops, right, the change here is price is dropping, the change in demand is it's going up. Now this is simply called extension in demand, right? Extension in demand is simply caused by a decrease in price of the particular good while everything else is constant. That means price of the product is going down. If you take all the determinants of demand, price of the product is coming down. Everything else is assumed to be constant. Your income is not changing. Your taste is not changing. Substitute products price is not changing, right? Now the quantity demanded has gone up. Why? Because the price dropped. Now that is called extension in demand. That is called extension in demand. And if you want to show that in a graph, this is how you show it. See here, let's move in a little to this part. So you can see this. Actually, what's happening is, at first we are, let's say, at point D, right? We are at point D. Let me go with red, or no, we'll go with orange. So we are at point D, right? That one. From there, from point D, now I'm moving to point E. When that movement happens, right? When I move from D to E, what is happening actually? What do you see in the graph? What can you take out of the graph when you look at it? Okay, I'm moving from point D to E. What has happened here? Why did we move from point D to E? What could have caused it? When we were at point D, the price was 40. The quantity demanded was 300. Perfect, no problem. Right, price 40, quantity demanded 300. When you move now, as you see here, point E says price is 20, quantity demanded is 400. So what has happened? The price of the product has dropped, right? The price of the product has dropped. As a result of that, you see here, the quantity demanded has increased. So that is pretty much what a change in quantity demanded is. In this case, we are talking about extension. Price has dropped, quantity demanded has gone up, right? And how to show it in a graph? It's simple. Whenever extension in demand happens, whenever a price drops, quantity demanded increases. So that is what is happening here. Price is dropping, right? Price is dropping, quantity demanded is increasing. How do you show that in a graph? By this movement. By this movement. You see, whenever that happens, you move from one point on the demand curve and you move downwards or right. Right? You move on that same demand curve from one point, you are coming down. Right? You are coming down. So this downward movement along the demand curve it's how we present extension in demand in a graph, right? Because this is nothing, this is no rocket science. You know this already. When you have a graph, 40 rupees, 300 units, when you come down in price from 40 to 20, obviously you see here for 20 rupees, the demand is around 400 units. For 20 rupees, the demand is around 400 units, right? When you are at 20 rupees, demand is around 400 units. So obviously you see here, when the price drops from 40 to 20, what's happening? Quantity demanded is increasing. Initially, when the price was 40, 300 units, so that's this point, right? We were here. But now, when the price came down to 20, we have moved to a different point on the demand curve. We have moved to a different point on the demand curve. So that movement is how you show extension in demand. Extension in demand. Simple. Right? The drop in the price caused the quantity demanded to increase. How to show it in the demand curve? Simple. You just move downwards along the demand curve. That's all you have to do. Is that clear now? So this movement from point D to E simply shows extension in demand, because this movement tells you price of the product is coming down and quantity demanded is going up. At point D, we were at 40 rupees, 300 units. At point E, we are now at 20 rupees, 400 units. So what has happened? Price has dropped because of when we moved, price has dropped, quantity demanded has increased, right? Is that okay? Right, someone is asking, can we use the phrase expansion of demand? Yes, instead of extension, you can use the word expansion, no problem, right? Or you can use the other phrase, increase in quantity demanded as well, right? So extension in demand and increase in quantity demanded mean the same thing, right? Mean the same thing, okay? Then we move on to the other side. We move on now to the other side. Give me a moment. Okay. So you see here, this time we are going to talk about contraction in demand. And contraction is the opposite of extension, right? Extension means kind of getting bigger, expanding. Contraction means becoming more and more smaller. So that's what's going to happen here. Simply, when the price of a product drops, what will happen? Demand will go up. But when the price of a product increases, what's going to happen now? When the price of a product increases, what will happen to the demand? What will happen to the amount people are asking of the product? It will come down. It will come down. This happens while every other factor is constant. Income, taste, future expectation, everything else, number of buyers in the market, everything else is constant. This is happening. Price is going up. The amount people are going to buy of the product is coming down. Now that's called contraction in demand. That's called contraction in demand. So simply, it's like moving from this D point to C point. What's happening? Price is increasing from 40 to 60. So price is going up. As a result, you see here, the quantity demanded drops from 300 to 200. Now, moving from that D to C is contraction. Moving from that D to C point is contraction. Why? Because price is increasing and the quantity demanded is dropping. This change in the amount people are asking, this decrease in the amount people are asking of the product is due to the increase in the price while other factors are constant. Now that's why this is what we call contraction in demand. This is what we call contraction in demand. And how do we show it in the graph? If you know how to show extension, you do the opposite. That's all. If you have understood extension, this is going to be piece of cake. Okay, so you see here, this time around, what's going to happen is, let's take from point C to D as I was talking. At point D, you see here the price is 40. At point D, price is 40. So if we take point D, price is 40 and the demand is 300 units. Now, when let's say in the market from price 40, now the new price is changing and it's 60 rupees. The price is changing and the new price is 60 rupees, right? So simply you see here, the price has gone up from 40 to 60, right? When it goes up, when the price is 40, no problem. When the price is 40, no problem. You see, demand is 300 units. Okay. But on the other hand, when you change your price and the price becomes 60 now, you see the demand is only 200 units. So what has happened? When the price went up, quantity demanded came down. When the price went up, quantity demanded came down. And how do you show it in the graph? By this movement from D to point C. Because point D tells you the price is 40, at which quantity demanded is 300. But C is telling you price is 60, quantity demanded is 200. So what has happened now? We have moved from D to C because the price went from 40 to 60, right? As a result of that, quantity demanded came down to 200 from 300 units. And this resulted in the movement along the demand curve from D to C. This upward movement or leftward movement along the demand curve is how we show contraction in demand. In other words, decrease in quantity demanded. Decrease in quantity demanded. Is that okay? So extension in demand, all we have to do is the price is coming down, quantity demanded is going up, right? So that's a downward movement along the demand curve, a downward movement along the demand curve. That's all, right? Here, contraction in demand and upward movement along the demand curve. Because when you move upward along the demand curve, what it simply means is whenever you go, let's say from C to B now, you're going from 60 rupees, or let me explain it this way, from C to B. What that simply means is you were at 60 rupees, 200 units, but when you move to point B, that means the price is now 80 and the demand is now only 100. So what has happened? Price has gone up, quantity demanded has decreased. Price has gone up, quantity demanded has dropped. So that's contraction, and this is how you show contraction in demand. Is that okay? Awesome. Glad you all got it. Right. Now, so remember, extension in demand, contraction in demand. Those are the two types of changes in quantity demanded. Because when you take a change in anything, it can be either increase or decrease. That's how change happens, right? You get better or worse, increase or decrease. So extension is about quantity demanded increasing when price drops. Contraction is about quantity demanded decreasing when price goes up, while other factors are constant. So those other factors being constant is something you should remember. Extension is caused only when price increases, only when price drops and quantity demanded increases. Contraction happens only when price goes up and quantity demanded comes down. That's contraction, right? Are you all okay with changes in quantity demanded? This whole thing? with that, we move on to changes in demand. With that, we move on to changes in demand. Okay. So changes in demand. Now, this is the story here. Now what's going to happen is price should not change, right? Price should not change, but the quantity demanded has to change. The thing that we have to notice here is the demand graph we have has only two axes, price and quantity demanded. That's why earlier, whenever the price changed and quantity demanded changed, because of that, we needed only one curve to show the movement. But this time, what's going to happen is the price is going to be constant, but while it's constant, we have to change the demand. That's the thing you need to know here, how to show that in a graph, right? How to show that in a graph. Take a minute and then go through this, then I'll explain the whole thing. Okay, so you see here, the summary is given. So the definition of changes in demand is given simply. Changes in demand are caused by changes in other determinants of demand while price remains constant. So changes in demand is simply caused by a change in any of the other determinants while the price remains constant, right? So here also when we take change, it can be either increase or decrease. So we have that exactly, increase in demand and decrease in demand. Those are the two types of changes in demand that we are going to talk about, that we have. Now, increase in demand, right, simply means this thing. Price has to remain constant. Let me get another color. Price of the product has to remain constant because we know that from the definition itself, price shouldn't change, right? Now the quantity demanded, the amount people are asking of the product, the name says it's increasing, right? So it should go up, right? It should go up. Price has not changed, but the demand, the amount people are asking of the product is going up. This could be caused by, we already know, maybe income of the person went up, or taste of the person went up. Maybe number of sellers in the market went up, right? Or sometimes you can also say substitute products price, right? Price of substitute product increased, right? Or sometimes you can say price of complementary good came down. Price of complementary good came down. So if you think about tea and sugar, if you think about sugar's demand will go up when tea's price drops, right? So whenever price of tea drops, sugar's demand would go up. So that's why if you look at the definition I have given, increase in demand is caused by a change in other factors of demand which favorably affects demand, right? Which favorably affects demand. So these other factors can change in any way as long as they affect demand positively. They lead to an increase in the amount people are asking, right? These other factors can go up or come down. It doesn't matter, right? But they should have a positive impact on the amount people are demanding. So that's why I use the word favorably affects, right? Favorably affects demand. So increase in demand is simply caused by these other factors that you're seeing changing in a way that favorably affects demand while price remains constant, right? So that's what increase in demand is. That's what increasing demand is. And how do you show it in a graph? It's simple, right? Let me show you. Now you see here, Point D that's given here, right? Point D that's shown here says price is 40, demand is 300 units. Says price is 40, demand is 300 units, right? Let's say the price is not changing, it's still at 40, but suddenly let's take a chocolate. Now, personally, if you ask me, I don't like chocolates. Do you guys like chocolates? Okay, I'm not that much into it, but let's say you are there, you are a person, and assume you are like me, you don't like chocolates, right? Assume, hypothetically speaking, like me. But now you see suddenly an advertisement on TV, right? Some hero or heroine pops up, someone from Bollywood pops up promoting a chocolate, right? What is a famous chocolate ad? Do you know any famous chocolate ad with some movie star? Kit Kat, Dairy Milk, okay? Cadbury, yeah, those are the things I normally see also, right? So what happens is for those stuff, always these movie stars and all pop up. So let's say you are watching TV, suddenly Anushka Sharma or someone pops up and they show the chocolate. You know, when they show the chocolate, they'll be like zooming in into the chocolate and show it in a very microscopic level, right? How it's made, when you break it, everything melts and comes out, everything that would be like, you know, you'll be mouth watering when you just look at the ad. Now, if you think about that chocolate, it's 300 rupees, let's say. You didn't like it before, so you didn't buy it. Now suddenly, right now suddenly, when the price is still the same, but when this ad came on, you saw it, right? Not just you, everyone in the market saw it. And now suddenly people want to eat it, try it. Right? Price did not change, but the demand now has gone up. So that is increase in demand. And how to show it? You see here, at first the price is 40, the demand was 300 units. When the price is 40, people are like, I will buy. Everyone in the market together are buying only 300 units, something like that. Think of it that way. But when the price remains the same, because of this ad, now people have started to buy it. People who are not ready to buy, now they are thinking to buy. So what's going to happen? You see here, demand is going up. Demand is going up from 300. Now it's around 450. So it's, you know, so let's say it's going up to 450, right? That point should be here now. The price should be 40. The quantity demanded should be 450, but that's not on the demand curve you already had, right? Because the demand curve you already have, right? The red line, it shows if the price is 40, 300 is the quantity demanded. But now in the market, price is still at 40, but people are ready to buy 450 units because they saw this ad. They suddenly like it. And that's why people, you know, businesses put ad, right, to keep the price the same and then make people buy it more, right? So that's happening here, right? That's happening here. And when this happens, you see here that point G is not on the existing demand curve. So what do you have to do? You have to move the demand curve like this. The demand curve shifts like this because that point G is not on in the existing demand curve, right? Existing demand curve simply says 40 rupees means 300 units. That's it, right? 40 rupees means 300 units. Keeping the price still at that 40 level, if you want to get to a point, right, where consumers are ready to buy 450 units, that is what is shown by this point G. Now what you have to do, you have only one choice. You have to show that the demand curve is shifting because now people prefer that product more. The taste has increased, Sometimes the price was 40, let's say. Now price was 40, but suddenly you got a salary raise, right? You got a salary raise. So earlier 40 rupees, you were able to only buy, the people in the market were able to only buy 300 units. But now the government has increased the salary. What has happened? At the same price, now people are able to buy more. So what should we do here? The demand curve has to shift, because the existing demand curve is drawn with the assumption only price is changing, everything else is constant, income constant, taste constant. When the taste increases, now the existing demand curve doesn't hold anymore. It doesn't apply anymore because taste is different now. Because when we drew that demand curve, we assumed a certain level of income, a certain level of taste. Now that has changed. That means the curve has to change accordingly. So when these other factors change in a favorable way to demand, quantity demanded of the product, the amount demanded of the product will increase while the price remains the same. How to show it? You have to shift the curve right. You have to shift the curve right. As simple as that. On the other hand, when the same thing happens in the opposite manner, that's what we have here, right? Decrease in demand means now you like chocolates, right? You like chocolates in the market, 40 rupees, 300 units you are ready to buy. Suddenly you come across a YouTube video that goes viral that says chocolates are made with these, some kind of a material that you don't like, right? Something you don't want in your food. Now suddenly what will happen? Same price, but people will start to reduce their consumption of chocolates because the taste came down, right? Normally that happens whenever these Maggie related videos and all come up. People will be like, I'm not going to buy Maggie. Maggie kills people, right? So something like that for chocolate also, something is coming up in YouTube. Your parents are sharing it with everyone and they're like, don't buy chocolates hereafter. Okay, so what will you do? You can't. At 40 rupees, earlier people were ready to buy 300 units, but now you see it has come in, right? Come into, let's say, for the same price, now people are only ready to buy 150 units. And if you take this H point, it's not on the existing demand curve. So what you have to do, and the existing demand curve is drawn before people saw that video, before that taste changed, right? The demand curve that is in red line is drawn simply based on changes in prices while everything else is constant. A particular level of taste, a particular level of income, maybe you are earning 20,000 rupees per month. At that time, it was drawn. When your income drops to 10,000, now this demand curve doesn't hold because it was drawn assuming you were earning 20,000. So when your income drops, your purchasing ability drops. So your demand comes in, it decreases. And how do you show that? Decrease in demand simply is shown by a shift left of demand curve shifting left. That's all. That's how you show a decrease in demand. Is that clear? So simply when the demand curve shifts out, increase in demand. When the demand curve shifts in, decrease in demand. Is that clear? Okay. Now, these changes in demand, right? These changes in demand will be caused. I have given each of the factors so that you can get an idea how these factors affect increase in demand or decrease in demand, right? Because this is where people get confused. They don't know when consumer income increases, how will it affect demand? They know it will affect demand. You should know how it affects demand, right? Whether it will lead to, let's say, an increase in consumer income, whether it will lead to increase in demand or decrease in demand. You need to know. So we'll have a look at that, right? So increase in demand will be caused by a what in consumer income, an increase or decrease. What do you think? An increase in demand will be caused by an increase in consumer income or decrease in consumer income. What do you think? Right. It will be caused by an increase. When your income increases, you can buy more. So your demand will increase while the price is still the same, right? Consumer taste, again, same thing. When your taste preference increases, at the same price, you will buy more. Future expectation. What do you think should happen to future price so that you would buy more today? In the future, if you get a news, the price of the product is going to go up. If you recently petrol price went up, if you got the news, we got the news like about 10 hours earlier, no, even before that they were saying there's a talk, price is going to go up 1 or 2 days before. If someone got the news, they would have been like, okay, petrol, I was thinking of going and buying it 2 days later, but let's buy it today. Why? 2 days later, the price is gonna go up. If I buy it today, I can get it for a cheaper price. I can save about 1,000 or 2,000. That's money, right? Someone can do that. So future expected price, right? What should happen? If the future price is expected to increase, if the future price is expected to increase, today people will go and buy the product, right? If the future price is going to go up, expected to go up, today everyone will go and buy the product. Why? Because if they wait, they'll have to buy for a higher price. Other factors, you have to simply say a positive change. We don't know what factor, no. So a positive change, something like that. But normally other factors is not questioned, right? So all you can do is a positive change, right? A change in other factors that positively affects demand. Number of buyers, obviously, when number of buyers goes up, we'll be able to see a higher demand for the product. Demand will increase when the population in the market goes up and up and up. Price of related products. Again, price of related products includes these two things, right? So simply here, if you want, you'll have to put a positive change, right? If we break it down and think about substitutes, let's take tea and coffee, right? We are talking about demand of tea. Coffee is a substitute for tea. Now, price of tea is not changing. Price of tea is not changing, but coffee's price is dropping. Coffee's price is dropping, right? Coffee's price is dropping. My question is, what will happen to tea's demand? Demand for tea will drop. Why? When price of coffee drops, people will be like, tea and coffee are substitute. So those who are buying tea will move and buy more coffee. Here, what's happening? When coffee's price drops, tea's demand drops. So for us to see an increase in demand of tea, what should happen to coffee's price? Coffee's price should increase. So what will happen? People who are buying coffee will be like, coffee is now expensive. We'll move on and buy tea. We'll move on and buy tea. So what should happen to substitute products price? It should increase. It should increase so that we can see an increase in demand of the particular good. On the other hand, let's say we are talking about sugar. We are talking about sugar and tea. Sugar and tea are complementary goods, and we are talking about sugar's demand. The price of sugar is not changing. Tea's price, right? Tea's price is dropping. Tea's price is dropping. What will happen to sugar's demand? Sugar's demand will increase. Why? When price of tea dropped, right? When price of tea came down, people will be buying more tea. Sugar is used with tea. More tea, more sugar. So when price of tea came down, sugar's demand went up, while sugar's price did not change. Sugar's price is still the same, right? So here you should write price of complementary goods should drop for us to see an increase in demand in sugar. All of these should happen while price remains constant. While price remains constant. So here also we noted that price of the product is constant. It's not changing, right? Price of the product is constant. Is that okay? So simply complementary products should drop. If we take sugar and tea, sugar's price, if it drops, what will happen? People will buy more tea. Sorry, tea's price, if it drops, people will buy more tea, right? People will buy more tea. Since sugar and tea are used together, more tea means more demand for sugar. More demand for sugar. Is that okay? The same thing will be opposite when it comes to decrease in demand, right? Decrease in demand. Consumers' income should come down for us to see a decrease in demand. Taste should come down. Future price should come down. When we think, okay, when we get a news next week price is coming down, will we buy today? No. You're going to buy a phone. You know, next week there's going to be maybe some Singles Day or some offer is coming, right? What will you do? Black Friday or something is coming. So what will you do? You'll wait till that day because at that time price will drop. So if the future expected price is dropping, demand of the product will drop today. Other factors, obviously, a negative or inverse change, right? Number of buyers, obviously, should drop for a decrease in demand. Price of related goods, again, negative. So this time around, price of substitutes, when coffee's price drops, tea's demand will decrease. Why? People will like, coffee is now cheaper. So whoever was already buying tea, they leave tea and move on to coffee. Complementary, we already saw with that sugar tea example. When price of tea goes up, people will buy less tea. That means less sugar, while price of sugar did not change at all, right? While everything else, while price remains constant. Is that okay? So whatever you learned for increase in demand, you just have to flip it, the opposite. So you have to learn only increase in demand. You can easily flip it and understand decrease in demand. Clear? Same goes for extension and contraction also. You have to learn extension properly, the graph and everything. Contraction will be just the opposite, right? Even the graph, everything is the same. You have to learn half of it, the rest you will get it easily. Cool. Now we have to move on to some questions. Government increases the salary of all government employees by 25,000 rupees. Which diagram presents the effect of this correctly? Which one? So give me a moment. I think I zoomed in. Okay. So here, price of a product did not change. Price of the product did not change. What has changed? Government is giving more salary to people. That means consumers' income is changing, right? That means you are dealing with either this or this. These two are out. The 3 and 4 are out because in those two, only price is changing, right? Those two graphs, we get the idea, okay, price changes as a result of that, quantity demand is changing because we know this, right? This is what do we call this movement? Is it contraction or extension or increase in demand or decrease in demand? This is contraction, right? It's contraction. Why? Because you are moving from this point to here. Price is going up, quantity demanded is coming down, right? So that's contraction. Not decrease in demand, it's contraction. Why? Because this change is caused by the change in the price. That's why you went from B to A. So that's contraction. So the graph 4, what is it? What does it show? It shows you are at point A, then you move to point B. What is happening in this case? Price of the product is simply coming down while quantity demand is going up. At point A, you were at this price. Now you are here. Price has come down, quantity demand has increased. So that is extension or expansion in demand. Cool. If you go to the graph number 1, what is happening? That is simply, you see, the demand curve is shifting in. The demand curve is shifting in. If you draw just a line like this, let's say that's the price. This was the initial quantity. Now at that same price, quantity demanded has come down. At that same price, quantity demanded has come down, right? Price did not change, quantity demanded has come in, right? So that is decrease in demand. So the other one is obviously increase in demand. Price did not change, but you see the quantity demanded is going out. Price did not change, quantity demanded is, you see, this is the quantity demanded initially. Now it's this. No change in the price, but quantity demanded has increased. Now that's, what do we call it? Increase in demand. That's fine. So the answer for this question is obviously answer number 2, because we'll end up with an increase in demand when government gives them more salary. Consumer income is going up, so demand increases. What's the answer for this? Okay. So the answer for this one, assume if the rainy season has begun and it's raining every day, how the demand of umbrellas will be affected as a result of this. So here again, there's nothing about price of umbrellas changing, right? They have said the climate, right, has changed, it's raining. That means people will need more umbrellas, right? People will need more umbrellas. So the answer for this one is also simply increase in demand. Increase in demand. That's all. So this is how you should know. So you should know what's happening between these graphs. You should know which one is decrease in demand, which one is increase in demand, which is contraction, which is expansion. Then only you can easily identify it. Maybe if I have given these in words, it would have been even simpler for you. But this time I wanted to go with graphs because that's where normally questions are asked, right? That's how people, tend to get confused. So answer for now, this question is answer number 2. Why? Price did not change, right? Price did not change, but demand has gone up, right? Next one. What's the answer for this? in the market of coffee, price has increased. Price has increased. So here, the first two ones are out because they talk about price being constant while other factors changing, because the first is decrease in demand, second is increase in demand. So we have to deal with third or the fourth graph here. So here what's happening, price of coffee has gone up. That means quantity demanded should drop. We know that that's contraction. So here, if you take this one, price is initially here, quantity demanded is here, right? Let's call it 20 rupees, quantity demanded is 8 units. Now the price has gone up from 20 to, let's say, 60 rupees. So the quantity demanded has come down to 20 now, right? So price has increased, quantity demanded has dropped. So price increase, quantity demanded drop. How do you show it? A movement from B to A on this demand curve. B to A on this demand curve. Is that okay? So answer for this is answer 3, third graph. That's showing contraction. Okay, so that's that. So we can continue with this now. Okay, all set. Shall we move forward with changes in quantity supplied and changes in supply? But I think we might not be able to finish it at 9. Right? I might have to, I might need some more time. Would that be okay with you all? Are you all up for it? Okay, that's great. I'm ready to give as long as it takes to properly explain the whole thing to you all so that you won't have any doubts hereafter in this part. Because this part, if you have a doubt, you know how much it will affect, right? I showed you the weight of it in the past paper question. So summary, right? In summary, this is what you need to know. Now this graph shows decrease in demand, right? Decrease in demand. So whenever you see demand curve shifting left, decrease in demand. Demand curve shifting right, increase in demand, right? Whenever you see demand curve shifting right or outside, now that's increase in demand. And here what's happening is the curve is not moving, but the movement is along the demand curve. Whatever the demand curve you have, from that demand curve, from one point, you're moving to another one. From one point, you're moving to another one. But in this case, when you move up, right? When you move upwards, that's called contraction. When you move downwards, that's called extension. Because whenever you are moving down, you know the quantity demand is increasing. Extension. Whenever you are moving up, you see you are going towards 0. So that's a decrease. So contraction. Okay. That's the summary of it. Remember that. Have that in your head. Moving on to supply. Now, one thing I want to tell you, if you are all okay with demand, right, supply is going to be super easy, right? It's going to be easy because everything is the same now. Every concept, the template is all the same, right? The only thing that's going to be different is some factors that decide supply are different from demand. That's the only thing that's going to be different. Wherever you saw the word demand, now you have to just put supply instead. You'll get your definitions and everything, right? So remember, when you are studying, make sure you study changes in demand and supply thoroughly, clearly, without any doubts. All you have to do afterwards for supply is to just take the word demand out, put the word supply in. That's all you have to do for almost 95% of this thing. So changes in quantity supplied, what do you guys think? What it is? Sorry, what is it? Right. Whenever quantity supplied changes, maybe it can increase or decrease as a result of price of the product changing, increase or decreasing. Now that's change in quantity supplied. That's change in quantity supplied. So what that simply means is an increase or decrease in price of the particular good. Let's take this shirt. If the price of the product goes up, the producer obviously will sell more units of it, right? The amount that the producer is ready to supply will be more now, higher now. Why? Because the price has gone up, while every other factor that decides supply are constant. Every other factor that decides supply are constant. They didn't change, right? They didn't change. The only thing that changed is what? Price of the particular good. Now that change has caused the amount the producer is ready to sell to change. That is changes in quantity supply. Price could go up or come down. As a result, quantity supplied changes while other factors are constant. That is changes in quantity supply. On the other hand, changes in supply, what is it? Right. While price remains constant, now what's going to happen? Supply, the amount the producer is willing and able to sell is going to change as a result of other determinants of supply changing. Other determinants of supply changing. Because if you think about it, as a producer, while the price is constant, now, for example, let's say the producer gets a better technology now, a new machine, right? He had an old machine with that he was producing. Now, the price, the cost didn't change. Let's say the price is still the same, but now the producer is able to use a better machine and produce maybe at a lower cost or something. What will happen? Price will remain the same, but the producer can put out more product. Why? The profit is now higher. So producers want that no, always to make more and more profit. So that's what's happening here. When the price is constant, if the technology gets better, now the producer will be making more profit. So even when the price remains constant, the producer will be ready to sell more. Why? Because technology improved. On the other hand, let's say the price is constant, but government comes in and puts a tax or something. Now what's going to happen for the producer? Cost of production is going up. The tax he has to bear now on top of the cost. Price didn't change, but the cost has gone up. Because of that, profit would come down. Price remains the same, but the supply comes down. Why? Because producer is not about, producer doesn't want price, he wants profit, right? The margin should be there. So when the price is constant, if the cost of production goes up, supply would come down. Price didn't change, but supply came down. Why? Because of some other determinants of supply changed. So remember, price is not the only thing that decides supply. There are other determinants. So while price remains constant, other factors changed. Because of that, supply changed. That is change in supply. Is that clear? So that is why I took a lot of time explaining the demand part, changes in demand, changes in quantity demanded, because if you got it correctly, this is going to be easy. It's the same thing, like I said, you just take the word demand out, put the word supply in. Okay, now moving on, I think we have to look at, give me a moment. Right, changes in quantity supply. So here also it's going to be the same thing, right? It's actually now the time you give your brain a little rest, because you know this stuff already. Changes in quantity supplied, we know these are caused by changes in price of the product, right? Whenever price changes, right? Whenever price increases or decreases, as a result of that, supply is going to increase or decrease. So that is what changes in quantity supplied is, right? Now change can happen in two ways, increase or decrease, right? Increase or decrease. Let's say quantity supplied is increasing, The reason is increasing the price of the product while technology is constant. Government policies are constant. Production cost is constant. Future expectation is not changing. When this happens, when price goes up, as a result of that quantity supply changes, increases, that is called extension in supply. Contraction, the opposite. Now price comes down, quantity supplied comes down as a result of price coming down, while other factors are constant. Contraction in supply. Isn't it easy now? Super easy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you understand something, it's going to be super easy. If not, it's going to be obviously difficult. It's like magic. Someone shows you magic, you look at it, you're like, how is this guy doing it? I can't understand. How can he do that? But once he shows you the trick, saying, this is what I do, you'll be like, is that all? I can do this now. So that's what's happening here. When you don't understand something, it will look like magic. You don't understand it. You can't believe that you can ever do that. Once you get it, it's, like I said, piece of cake. So now showing this in a graph, again, let's take 60 rupees. At 60, initially, if the price is 60, you see supply is 300 units, right? Supply is 300 units. Now, when the price goes from 60 to 80, you see here, when the price is 80, you see 80 rupees meets the supply curve at this point, E point. At that point, 400 is the amount supplied. So you see here, when you move, when the price goes up from 60 to 80, you see here, as a result of that, quantity supplied is going from 300 to 400. 300 to 400, right? So what's happening? How do you show it in a graph? It's simple. How do you show this in a graph? Using this movement, right? Using this movement, right? You just move from D point to E point. When you're moving from D to E, what is it showing? It's showing the price is going up because at D point, price is 60. At E point, price is 80. So when you move from D to E, price has gone up. At D point, quantity supplied is 300. E point, 400 it is. So when you move from D to E, quantity supplied is also increasing. So what's happening? You can see here, this is what's happening, right? That's what's happening. So that is how you show extension in supply. How do you show it? Simply by showing that movement along the supply curve upwards, right? Remember, it should be an upwards movement, right? The movement should be from D to E, that direction, right? Or you can also call it maybe a rightward, what do you call, movement also. You can take any product. You can take shirt. When the price goes up at 60 rupees, producers are saying, I'll sell only 300 units. But when the price goes to 80, they are selling 400 units. And how do you show it in the graph? The movement from D to E. That's how you show it. And on the other hand, when you move to contraction, you go the other direction, right? So at 60 rupees, you were ready to sell 300 units. So you see here and this point, at 60 rupees, you are ready to sell. Let me zoom in a bit. Right, at 60 rupees, you are ready to sell 300 units as a producer. Now, when the price comes down to 40, right? When the price comes down to 40, you can see here, you are moving from point C to D. Why? D says 60 rupees, 300 units. But now we are seeing the price coming down to 40 rupees. From 60, price is coming down to 40 rupees. When that happens, we know the producer is going to reduce their supply. So that's also happening. So you see here, we are now moving from D to C. We are moving from D to C. That movement is simply telling you the price is dropping from 60 to 40, supply is dropping from 300 to 200. And that's called contraction. That's how you show contraction in supply. Is that okay? So when you have a supply curve from one point, if you move up above this way, that's what? Expansion in supply or extension in supply or increase in quantity supply. When you go the other way, right? When you go the other way, that's called contraction in supply or decrease in quantity supply. Why? When you go this way, what it simply means is your quantity supplied is coming down, coming towards zero. So that is contraction. Supply is contracting because of price coming down, right? Expanding means, you see, so when you move this way, right? Let me erase the whole thing. When you move this way from D to E and E to F, what's happening? The supply goes from 300 to 400, 400 to 500. Supply is expanding. Why? Because of an increase in price. So that is expansion. Is that clear? Yeah. Perfect. Now let's move on to changes in supply. Changes in supply. Again, it's going to be the same exact thing, right? Isn't this kind of fun? When you're studying, it's going to be fun because you have a huge book, maybe the tute. Let's say it's about 60 pages or 50 pages. Once you study this demand part, supply part is going to be a cakewalk, like I said. So you put your efforts in studying demand part thoroughly, correctly, and everything. Supply is going to be, you can finish it like in maybe 1 hour, 2 hours. That's all. Once you have revised it properly. So increase in supply, price is not going to change, but supply has to increase. So you see here, from a producer's point of view, you have a look now. Let me get a okay. So you see here, when the price is 60, producer is saying, I will sell only 300 units. But due to maybe technology improving, at the same price, 60 rupees, but the producer is now saying, I can sell 450 units. I can sell 450 units. So this movement now from D to G, D is on the existing supply curve, but G is not. G is outside the existing supply curve. So what do you have to do? You have to draw a new supply curve. Why? Because the existing, that red supply curve is drawn assuming only price is changing. Technology, cost of production, government policies, future expectation, number of sellers, all are constant. When new sellers come into the market, this old red supply curve doesn't hold anymore because we have more people. That's why we have to shift the curve. When supply increases while the price remains constant, you see here, price is still the same, but supply has increased. Supply has increased. To show it, you have to shift the curve out or right. The same, you have to flip it now for decrease in supply. So what do you have to do now? So you have supply, let's say 60 rupees. You are saying I will sell 300 units because that's when I'll make profit. So you're saying 60 rupees means I'll sell, I'll sell 300 units. Now, let's say due to some machine, something not working or some machine broke. So you have to now produce in an older method, which is costly now. Because of that, what's going to happen? The price did not change, but you are now able to only sell 150 units at the same 60 rupees. Earlier for 60, you were ready to sell 300. Now, because of you losing a technology, right? Maybe cost of production going up, or maybe sellers in the market going up, something causes the supply to reduce while the price is still the same. Now to show it, this movement from D point to G point, they are not on the same supply curve, right? They're not on the same supply curve. So you have moved from out of your existing red supply curve. That was the initial supply curve that was drawn. But now you have moved away from it. So to accommodate, the supply curve has to shift because the red supply curve is drawn assuming a certain amount of technology, assuming you have a new machine. Now you lost the machine, so you have to change your supply curve because you don't have the assumed technology that you had when you drew this red supply curve. Now the technology is bad, worse. So your supply is going to get affected badly even when the price is still the same. To show that, the curve has to shift inside. The curve has to shift inside. So everything is given here in detail. When there is an increase in supply, supply curve shifts to the right. When there is a decrease in supply, right? When there is a decrease in supply curve shifts to the left, right? Is that okay now? So again, demand, if you understood that part, it's the same logic. It's the same thing. Until I finish off this part, right? We finish it off and then do a few questions and then we can finish it off. Because there are past paper questions that we have to have a look at, and there's like a small, you have a Kahoot small exam also that will take about 5 to 10 minutes. You can play it if you want, a game based on what we studied today, obviously, not football or cricket. Right. So changes in supply, this is the most important part, right? Change in supply, we know, is caused by changes in the other determinants while price remains constant. Now looking at that, okay, increase in supply, right? First we'll have a look at it. Increase in supply is caused by some other factor changing while price of the product remains constant. While price of the product remains constant. So that's going to be constant. You tell me, for supply to increase, for the producer to be, motivated to sell more, to be ready to put more products in the market, to supply more, cost of production, what should happen? Increase or decrease? It should increase or decrease. What do you think? It should drop. Then only the producer will be like, more profits, let's sell more stuff. Technology, it should improve. The better the technology, lower the cost. Because that's what technology improvement means. You have better technology means you can do it more efficiently. Government policies now, there are two government policies mainly we talk about. One is taxes on producers. The other is subsidies given for producers, right? You guys tell me, what should happen to tax for supply to increase? Should the government put more tax or reduce tax? Tax on producers should come down. If the government removes tax, now the producers will be able to sell more. If the government puts more tax, for the producer, it's going to be, production is going to be costly now. So they'll be reducing their, supply, because that's why government puts a tax to discourage production, right? So tax on producers should decrease for supply to increase. Subsidies, subsidy means government giving producers something to encourage production. Subsidies should increase, right? That's why in chapter 3, when you study subsidies, the supply curve shifts outside. When you study tax, the supply curve shifts inside, right? When government imposes a tax. Future expectation. This is something recently would have happened. When government increased the price of petrol, what do you think? These petrol sheds and all, would they have supplied more or reduced their supply? When government said tomorrow, right, midnight, we are going to increase the price. We are going to increase the price. Now, what would the petrol sheds do? They are saying at midnight, we are going to increase. Now, what would the petrols do? They will just close down. They will just put these ropes and be like, we don't have petrol, right? That genuinely that happens. Normally, whenever you hear the news, petrol price is going up tomorrow, you can go around, you can see lots of petrol sheds would be closed. Why? They'll wait, stop selling it. They'll wait till tomorrow, midnight. Now they can sell it for a higher price. They might have bought it for a lower cost. Now they'll get extra 20 rupees if you take 92 octanes, earlier 137, now 157, just by waiting a few hours. So future expectations, what should happen for them so that we can see increase in supply? If the producers get a news, next week price is going to come down, let's say for gold or any product, they'll be like, let's sell it today. Let's sell it today. Somehow we should sell it today, because if we wait till next week, prices will drop, right? So when next week, if the price is coming down, today supply will increase. Other factors, obviously, you should say some positive change, right? Number of sellers, an obvious one. The higher the number of sellers, higher the supply. Price of related goods. Let's say you have these water bottles now, right? Water bottles are there, right? And then lunch boxes are there. When the price of water bottle is not changing, right? Lunch boxes prices, right, are dropping. What do you think will happen to water bottle supply? Not demand, it should be supply. Price of water bottle did not change. For the producer, water bottles and lunch boxes are substitutes from the producer's point of view. They can produce any of them. No one is like, I like water bottles because it helps people drink water, so I will only produce water bottle. No one will say that. Water bottle or lunch boxes, whichever sells more, I will sell it. Whichever gives me more profit, I will sell it. Now, water bottle producer is there. For him, lunchbox is an alternate option. Lunchbox prices are coming down. Lunchbox prices are coming down. So from the producer's point of view, water bottle is now more profitable. So what will he do? He will drop producing lunchboxes, reduce production of lunchboxes, and then increase the supply of water bottles. Why? Lunchbox prices came down. So for the producer, water bottles is more, producing them is more profitable. So what will happen? Whenever alternate options price drop, substitute of producer, right? Substitute for in production, when it comes down its price, now producer will be like, okay, this particular product, I can supply more, right? I can supply more. On the other hand, if you take lunchbox prices are increasing. Now this guy who is producing water bottles, he'll be like, lunchbox is more profitable. It's more attractive for him now. So what will he do? He will drop this and go and produce more lunchboxes, right? So whenever the substitute option for the producer, whenever that price goes up, the demand for the product, the supply for the product comes down. On the other hand, whenever substitute products price comes down, the producer will be like, this one is more attractive. So he will produce more of it, right? So that's how it works. So simply you can mark this. We have already marked it, right? Price of alternate options for the producer. When the prices drops, you will see an increase in supply of the particular product, right? Price of byproducts, obviously, like I said, when the prices of byproducts go up, right? Shirt and handkerchiefs. Handkerchief is a byproduct. When the price of handkerchiefs go up, producer will be producing more shirts or less shirts. What do you think? You get handkerchiefs when you produce shirts with the leftover material. So whenever price of this byproduct goes up, producer will be like, let's produce more shirts. So by selling shirts, I get profit. By selling more handkerchiefs, I'll get more profit. So that's gonna happen. Price of byproducts, when they go up, supply of the product will increase. Even though shirts price is not changing, just because handkerchiefs price is going up, people will be producing more shirts because they know by producing shirts, you get to handkerchiefs. Normally this happens in production of these related to coconuts and stuff. When you are producing coconut oils, you'll be using coconuts. No, you have these coconut shells. You can create handcrafts out of it. So if you are a producer of coconut oil, those coconut shells are simply what? Whatever you can produce with them is a byproduct. So whenever handcraft prices go up, production of coconut oil will also go up, because they know by producing oil they get profit. By using these shells to make handcrafts, they can sell for a higher price and make more profit. So that's how it works, right? And number of sellers, I think I marked it. Now it's not there. Might have, erased it by accident. Number of sellers, it should go up for producers to increase supply, right? Decrease in supply, everything ulta. You just put them upside down now, right? So cost of production should come down for a decrease in supply. Technology should come down for a decrease in supply. Government policies should be affecting supply negatively while price is constant for a decrease in supply. Tax on producers, what should happen? It should increase. If the government puts more and more tax, decrease in supply. If the government reduces subsidies, decrease in supply. Future price, what should happen? Sorry, my bad. I made a mistake here. Cost of production should not decrease, it should increase, right? Cost of production should increase. Then only producers will be like, okay, my profit has gone down, so I'm gonna sell less of it. Okay, remember that. Cost of production should increase. Technology should, decrease. Okay, other ones are okay. And the future price, what do you think? It should, in the future, price should increase. In the future, if the price is increased, today producer will be like, stop selling, we'll wait 1 week and then sell. For gold, that happens always. If they know in these Middle Eastern countries, prices of gold has gone up, everyone in here, Sri Lanka, will be like, let's say out of stock, wait 1 week and then sell for a higher price. So if the future price is going to go up, today's supply will decrease. Other factors, obviously, a negative change, number of sellers, an obvious one. It should come down. Lesser the number of sellers, lesser the supply. Price of related goods, now it should be the opposite. Whatever you see here, it should be the opposite of it, right? So for the producer, if the alternate product is more attractive because the price of it went up, they will leave this product and go there. So this product's price did not change. Let's say water bottle and lunch boxes. Water bottles price did not change, but since lunchbox prices went up, this guy left water bottles, went and produced lunch boxes, right? Byproducts, let's take these coconut handcrafts. Their prices have come down. So for the producer now, just making oil is now less attractive, right? Earlier, that was a bonus. Now that bonus is coming down. So for the producer, in some way, supply might drop. Okay, all of this must happen while price remains constant, right? While price remains constant. So decrease in supply means price should not change, but some factor, some other determinant of supply should change in a way which affects supply in an adverse manner, negative way, right? So this is that. But if you want, take a screenshot of this maybe and keep it. With that, I think the theory parts or the explanation parts are simply over. Now we have questions to do. Okay, now we have questions to do. So are you all ready to do questions? Eagerly waiting. Okay, we'll do it. So tax is something government charges from the producers. Subsidy is something government gives to the producers to encourage their production. Maybe they give some kind of money for farmers or some interest-free loans for farmers, free fertilizers for farmers to improve supply. Price is still the same, but supply would increase because government gave something free to the farmers. So the cost of production for the farmers would somehow come down. So they will supply more while the price is still the same. Now, look here. There are 4 graphs. What is the first one? What does it show? Just to sum everything up, what does this one show? What is it showing? What does it mean? So this is demand curve now. So tell me, is it contraction, extension, increase in demand, or decrease in demand? Think properly, deeply, and then tell me. Extension, contraction, increase in demand, or decrease in demand? What's happening? You are moving from A to B. You are moving from A to B. So you were, let me clear this thing. You were here at A point. That means at that point you might have had a price 40, maybe 10 units. Now you are moving to B point. Now you are moving to B point. So B point shows you that the price is lower than 40, let's say 20. But the demand is more than 10, right? Let's say 30. So what has happened? When you move from point A to B, price has dropped, quantity demanded has increased. So when you just see that movement from A to B, a downward movement along the demand curve, that means it's contraction in demand. That means it's contraction in demand. Is that correct? No, it's extension. It's extension, right? It's extension in demand. When price comes down, quantity demanded increases. It's called extension. Why it's called extension? You can have it in your head like this. When you move down along the demand curve, what's happening? You see, you are moving away, right? You're moving away from this zero. Your quantity demand is, it keeps on increasing, right? When you are going this way, what it means is you are moving this side. That's expansion, right? That's expansion or extension in demand. Now, the second picture, what is it? What's it showing? It's contraction. It's contraction. Why? The price is not changing. The price is still the same. The price is still the same, right? Sorry, my bad. The price is, other factors are the same. Price is the one that's changing here. My bad. So you are moving from B to A this time. This is the movement we have. So let's say the price is here, it's 10. At that time, demand is about 40. Now, price is going up. So let's say this is 20. And here it's now 10. So you see here, when the price went up from 10 to 20, demand reduced. Demand reduced. So when you move this side, you see, when you're moving upwards along the demand curve, that means the quantity demanded is coming closer to zero. That means it's reducing. So you can think of it that way also. Whenever you see a movement upwards, that means you're moving towards zero when it comes to demand. That means quantity demanded is reducing. And this is happening because of a change in price, because the curve did not shift. That means price has caused it. If price has caused it, it's contraction, not decrease in demand. Okay, not decrease in demand. Be thorough with it. If it's decrease in demand, the curve should have shifted left. If it's contraction, you move upwards along the curve. You move upwards along the curve. Extension, you move downwards along the demand curve, right? Extension in demand. Increase in demand, the demand curve shifts to the right. Same thing with supply. What is this one showing? It's contraction in supply. Why? When you see this, it's moving inside, right? You see the movement is downwards, right? Movement is downwards. What that simply means, when you move this way, quantity supply is moving towards zero. It's reducing, right? It's reducing. In here, when you're moving this side, you are moving away from zero. That means you are increasing, right? So when you move upwards along the supply curve, that is extension. When you move downwards along the supply curve, that is contraction. That is contraction.